All opinions expressed on any program are those of the producer and are persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of DCTV. All producers and guests appearing on programs provide information and opinions based on information they consider to be reliable. DCTV does not affirm the completeness and accuracy. All DCTV members agree to adhere to DCTV's statement of compliance and are participants in a community medium forum where they're exercising their freedom of speech.
Good evening. I'm your host, Karen Hudis. This show is a series that has been coming to you from DCTV since 2015 in a weekly program called the Network of Global Corporate Control. Today's program is live and is called Back to Basics. Thank you to DCTV and to Carmen Stanley, Program Director, to Maurice Jackson, Studio Director, and to Cruchet Starnes on audio and teleprompter. I'm getting a lot of help. A Twitter account named Mary R. Houghton, or MRH, reminded me about something I tweeted a couple of months ago. This explains how the Federal Reserve Bank is bankrupt. It also explains how I got involved. I must be over the target on this tweet. The link is being censored. Royalty and other rich people used to own the world's gold. In between World War I and World War II, they gave their gold away in return for Treaty of Versailles bonds that were issued by the Federal Reserve Bank. $2 quadrillion worth of bonds are in the global debt facility because Jose Rizal also represented the royal bloodline families who exchanged their gold for bonds issued by the Federal Reserve in the 1930s. As a lawyer working in the World Bank's legal department, I knew what to do with the Treaty of Versailles bonds held in the global debt facility. I recorded the debt of the Federal Reserve under the Uniform Commercial Code with all of the Secretaries of State where the Federal Reserve has offices. And then I issued a notarial protest for this debt with the Universal Postal Union. On the 1st of January 2015, I wrote to the Postmaster General of the United States. Dear Madam Postmaster General, the Board of Governors of the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development have appointed me to exercise their authority under paragraph 6 of the Bilateral Minesfield Breakthrough Successor Agreement. Accordingly, by copy of this letter, I'm informing the Director General of the Universal Postal Union International Bureau, H.E. Bashar Abdurrahman Hussein, that the Treaty of Versailles gold bullion certificates in the global debt facility are ours. And the network of global corporate control is now bankrupt. I look forward to working with the Universal Postal Union in the peaceful transition to national currencies minted from the gold in the global debt facility and to local currencies as introduced by villages and municipalities. And then I signed that. And could we stop scrolling and let me speak extemporaneously and explain what this means? What this means is that the Federal Reserve is bankrupt. Now, it's taking a while for people to catch on where we are, but enough people understand this, that the bankers are not going to get away with it. This is reality. And yeah, there's nothing further actually to be said except that we have to continue to convince people what the actual reality is. Okay, you can continue to scroll now. It's my job to clean up the corruption in the world's money. I'm working together with everyone, although now only a critical mass of people understand. Now that there's a critical mass of people who understand, there's no way for the corruption to continue. And then I was writing to someone who is a psychic healer, and she wanted to help heal me. You realize that I've been under attack, and she had something to say about it. There were people who were worried about me because of all of the scalar weapons that were trained against me. And this person, who's a psychic healer, thought that she could help me. And she sent me a few emails. Now, I'm not going in with her on that. I have my own health team, and as you can see, I've been challenged by a number of problems, but I'm on the mend. I'm strong, and I've withstood these attacks. And I'm just going to finish reading the email from this psychic healer. Last week, she was speaking about the commercial leads. Could you scroll forward instead of back? Thank you. We're just, by the way, I really do appreciate the teleprompters. It's a lot easier than speaking just at home. It makes a lot of difference. And then I got an email. No, actually, this was a comment in the YouTube. Thank you for saying the F word, Fukushima. The accident at Fukushima is polluting the oceans with radiation. I devoted 2 segments on DCTV to this problem. The tsunami was blamed for flooding the reactors and causing the explosions, but Stone presented evidence that Israel had destroyed the Fukushima Daiichi plant by installing gun-type nuclear weapons in disguise. The Israelis had thought that they could fool people. They were secret security cameras, but they were actually nuclear guns, and that's what destroyed Fukushima, and not the tsunami. Now I want to describe the villains who are trying and failing to control humanity. Oh, the teleprompter seems to have cut out. Well, that's the black nobility that are trying to control humanity. And many people are confused about who these people actually are. A lot of people think that they're the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds were involved. One of the Rothschilds, James de Rothschild, was the father of Queen Victoria. But these people are, they're junior people. They're not the ones that are actually the central bankers that own all of the central banks. That's the black nobility, and I can describe them to you, actually. It's not in the teleprompter, but Queen Elizabeth is descended from them. Most of the royalty are also descended from this black nobility. But these people, they like to hide. They like to hide behind the Rothschilds. And people are confused. Many people remain confused. But the point is that you should not, you have to start thinking independently. And because enough people understand, the critical mass of people understand that they've been lied to for centuries, these lies are not going to continue. People want to know the game plan, how we're going to stop these lies, how people are going to transform the world from the domination of the black nobility to what we want. And what is it that we want? We want to live in peace. The people who are in the governments are not living in peace. They're all liars. We need to get our real governments back. The present governments are all, they're part of this network of global corporate control. They're listed on the stock exchanges. And a lot of people have gone into the intricacies of how the black nobility has rearranged things. But the fact remains that we're going to get rid of the corruption in the world's money, and we're going to do this by getting rid of the central banks and getting rid of the paper currency, which is the way that the black nobility is perpetuating their power. And it's taking some time because we have to do this peacefully, and also because although many people can understand that they're being told lies, there's resistance because the lies have been so deeply spread, and the institutions that are responsible for spreading these lies, it's very difficult for people to be critical, to be skeptical. But since enough of us have reasoned, we're not going to continue to accept these lies. That's the long and short of it. Now, let me explain some of the lies and how I know that we're going to resist these lies. It's because what we mean by critical mass, or the 100-monkey effect, that is that when enough people understand what the actual reality is, it becomes manifest. That is, reality is real. And so you can't, the lies just compound. So what does reality becoming manifest means? It means that there's no way back. Reality is reality. And part of the reality is the fact that we have all of this wealth in the global debt facility, which belongs to all of the people on Earth. And you can see in the correspondence how many people have been trying to come up with one excuse or another, one lie or another, to try to claim that this wealth doesn't belong to all the people on Earth. But these lies have been, they've been revealed. And one of the ways that we know that these lies are revealed is because of something called the statute of limitations. Anybody who wants to claim that the wealth of the world belongs to them has to prove this, and they no longer are able to prove it. They've run out of time because of the statute of limitations. That means that it's taken too long for these claims to be recognized, and so they're not recognized, and every single shyster has been unmasked, and they will not have an opportunity to lie to us. So it's cast iron. Our wealth that belongs to us, that's part of the reality that's manifest. And I don't think it's going to take forever for people to realize that the wealth of the world does not belong to the black nobility anymore. It doesn't. It belongs to all of us. How are we going to rearrange ourselves once we recognize this reality? That's an incredibly important question. And the way that I'm hoping we're going to do this is through the decentralization. If all of the villages and towns issued local currency, then this is also going to create a grassroots possibility to rearrange the governments so that the governments will actually represent the people that are living in the countries, as opposed to what you now have, which is, it's just a pack of lies. The corporations that are part and parcel of the network of global corporate control, they're the ones that are in charge. Well, they're not in charge, actually. What it is they are lying, and people believe that they're in charge. But enough of us have, we understand what the actual reality is. So there's going to be a change, a sea change in the way we approach each other, and there are scientists who can explain to us the way we're actually wired, so that we're not really supposed to be dominated and accept all of these lies. We're transcendent beings. What does that mean? That means that we're spiritual. Now, a lot of people get confused with the organized religions, and we're going to steer clear of these because they lead to conflict. And that's one of the ways that you can foment disagreement and keep people from working together, because they fight over the organized religions. So we're not going to be dealing with these matters until after we've cleaned up the corruption. And as I've explained in the very beginning of this segment, we talked about how we're cleaning up the corruption, how the Treaty of Versailles bonds that are worth $2 quadrillion, they're there. They belong to us. And country debt doesn't exist, because all of the debt owed by the Federal Reserve is much greater than any country debt. So there is no debt. It's erased. It's offset, and all of the taxes that are supposedly due, well, that's the bookkeeping is wrong there as well, because the governments, they're all corrupt. They're not. Now, people do believe that these governments do exist. They do believe that the constitutions are there, but these are lies. And it's going to take us some time before we end the brainwashing. And it's taken centuries of brainwashing, so it's not going to be so easy for people to work their way loose. But I'm one of the people who's been working together with other people to put all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together. And they do fit together very well. I'm not saying that I understand every single thing, because obviously I don't, but I'm working together with enough people that we understand that the actual reality is very, very different. For example, all of the history that we thought was real, it's not real, it's lies. And all of the proof was destroyed because the Jesuits wanted to continue to lie to people. That's not working. We do understand that there's a difference between reality and the lies. And going back to Fukushima, we really do have to start paying attention to these lies, because the radiation in the oceans is killing the whales. It's killing the life. So we don't have infinite time. We do have to get our acts together. One of the things that we were talking about recently was the lies that are told to us about global warming. There is no global warming. We actually have discovered that there are climate cycles, and we're on the edge of an ice age, a mini ice age. And these climate cycles, the black nobility has been using them to destabilize people. So we have to understand that the actual reality is very different, and we have to start mobilizing ourselves, because global warming, well, if we're on the edge of an ice age, that's going to have repercussions to the amount of food that's available. We don't want mass starvation. And there are many wonderful inventions that will stand us in good stead, that will free energy. There's no reason to not to bring these inventions out. The black nobility was trying to earn money from withholding these inventions from us. But there's no reason not to benefit. And there's every reason to fight the coming ice age, and to get ourselves positioned so that we've stored enough food that we're not going to have mass starvations. These climate cycles have been responsible for destabilizing people. That's the way the network of global corporate control has perpetuated its power. When people were on the edge of an ice age, they fought, they migrated, and in the process, the black nobility grabbed up the resources and got richer. So we've got to understand, first of all, where we are, and we have to do things differently. How long is it going to take us to do things differently? It's not that hard, actually, when you think about it. The way the corrupt money system works, you just have to recognize that real money is precious metals. It's not paper currency. And also, you have to recognize that local villages and towns don't have to use national currencies that are corrupt, paper currencies. They can issue currencies in their local area using a barter system. So that's what we have to do. It's the mechanisms are really very straightforward. What's not so straightforward is getting people to understand what the actual reality is. But since enough of us do understand this, we're going to manage to transform our world, and we'll do this in the time that we need to do it. Obviously, we don't want to have dead oceans. We don't want to have mass starvations, and we don't want to fight each other through disagreements that have been deliberately set by the network of global corporate control. It was a neat trick that they did, but once we understood it, it didn't work. It doesn't work. There are enough of us that understand this, that we're going to dismantle this system. And you want to know, when does this start? That's the question. I don't know the answer to that. But I do know that the network of global corporate control is not in charge, and they're not making any progress. Every time they try to win, they lose. The more they try to lie, the easier it is for us to see through them. And one of the mechanisms you can see when I put something in the social media and the links get broken, this is suspicious. It just, it helps people understand that the reality is very different. So there's no way for the network of global corporate control to continue to hide. The more it tries to hide, the more it gets exposed. I've been working pretty hard to try to expose these things. I'm obviously working with the rest of the critical mass, and I'm told that we have 2 minutes. So let me talk about the outro and wind things up. The reality is that the world's elites and dishonest bankers have no claim over the world's wealth. The Postal Union has refused to admit the bankers are bankrupt. The militaries seem to know the reality that the banking cartel has lost. Oh, I'm a little confused. I thought we were supposed to wrap it up, but I have a little more time. Well, I just want to say how happy I am to be back in Studio B. It's much better, I can tell you, to try to make the points that I need to make, using the resources at DCTV and the Studio B. I did try to make my own homemade video, and with mixed results. People were very kind, and they did indulge me in what I did, but that's not the way to cover these very important matters. We need to be professional. So that's what we're doing now. And as I said, I'm very happy to be back in Studio B. And next week, I'm going to be talking about Jerusalem. That's part of what I wanted to discuss. So that's all. Until next week, I'm your host, Karen Hudis.